tell you when's the last time I got so serious about something like this Slapshot remake discussion. And we've had some really good ones coming in here. Jeff in Winnipeg, Camilla says the Baldwin brothers for the Hansons. Wayne in Victoria agrees with my Zach Galifianakis as Denis Lemieux. Denis Lemieux, continuons sa saison. Who would be Dickie Dunn? I feel like Elliot Friedman should play Dickie Dunn. But I think that Billy Bob Thornton is a slam dunk as Reg Dunlop, because this is a very, very important role. This would be the role that might define Billy Bob Thornton's career.
It's the role.
It's the role. And I will go along with Billy Bob Thornton as Reg Dunlop. That's how big of a fan I am of his.
How about that?
And of Reg Dunlop's, and nobody has come close to anybody else.
Somebody mentioned Steve Carell. Steve Carell maybe is Jim Carr.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
He could be Jim Carr. That works for me.
No. The guy whose idea this was in the first place, Robin Wildy, he's watching in PA. He says Liam Neeson as Joe McGrath. Liam Neeson's way too cool to play Joe McGrath. Way too cool.
Somebody mentioned.
Hey! John in Winnipeg. John Ohm. Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
As Joe McGrath.
Yeah. Slam dunk.
Perfect.
Oh, how about that? Get ready for the Rod Pedersen Show.
This former producer of major market television shows writing into us anonymously to say he just found our show on Game Plus Television. Here's some tips. The show has ADD. It's all over the place. Your sound effects are annoying. And your host is arrogant. Right on all counts. But that's what we want. That's what we wanted it to be.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
Yeah. Guilty as charged. Thank you, Rick Regan. Welcome, everybody. Get on up inside. Canada's favorite daytime sports talk show, broadcasting again live from Johnny O's Gymnasium in Boca Raton, Florida. I feel like we're going to be here at Johnny O's for a while. Let's please bring in the Moose. He's in Toronto for now, but he's flying to Western Canada for some football duties later on in the week. Moose, what's up with you today? Are you ready to get down to business?
Yeah, I'm ready to get down to business, man. Let's go.
Okay, well, that's quick. All right, coming up on the program today, from Winnipeg, the sports doctor, Dave Patrician's going to be with us. He's in hour one, and in hour two, the host of Sportsnet Flames broadcasts, our good friend Ryan Leslie. Those are the guests today. Can you hit the quick show horn, please? Director, like yesterday, where we had very high ratings. There's a lot to talk about today. The big story for me, I'm going to open with the National Football League. It's the biggest thing on earth as far as I'm concerned. And this was news that came down before we were off the air yesterday, but I feel everybody's talking about it, and it's going to dovetail into a lot of NFL things. All-Pro left tackle Trent Williams is ending his contract holdup for the San Francisco 49ers. His new deal will pay him over $82 million over 3 years. That includes a signing bonus of over 20. Williams accumulated more than $5 million in fines for missing training camp and 3 preseason games. I'm joking, laughing, because you said you weren't watching a lot of the U.S. coverage, ESPN this morning and that kind of thing, get up. But the Jets fans, of which there are many in the media, because as you know, New York is the media, like the Toronto for the media of the USA. A lot of Jets fans there, and they're all like, oh, great, Trent Williams is going to be playing Monday night when the 49ers take on the New York Jets. I want to ask you, as the football guy out of this, honestly, and I kind of feel like I know the answer, but how big of an impact on the game will this have? And I have a point. I know it sounds like a dumb question, but start with that, please.
My mind goes a few places. When you say that, and you're like, I got a point. I'm like, is it that Micah Johnson came in off the D line for Saskatchewan and played
No.
guard, and they ran the ball really well with him at guard? They played well. It's like they
No.
plug and play. But no, Trent Williams is an all-star. Trent Williams was rated, I believe, like the best offensive lineman in the game last year and continues to be one. It's a big deal, and I've seen the not complaining from Jets fans, but a little bit of like, oh, great. Christian McCaffrey's back and healthy. Brandon Ayuk is off the holdout. Now Trent Williams is coming back. It's just like, couldn't you wait a few more days? Now you're going to get all these guys just in time to play the Jets, and away we go again. But it's a big deal, and San Francisco wants to win a Super Bowl, and they got everybody back.
Well, here's the reason I ask, and I'm not going to come at it the way that you think that I am. I'm looking at it, or trying to look at it, the way the coaches would look at it. Trent Williams, as you mentioned, one of the best left tackles in the game, if not the best left tackle in the game. So if you got some schlub out there because Trent Williams is holding out and he misses his block because it's the most key position on the offensive line, and your quarterback gets killed, Brock Purdy, there's your season. You know what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily what will happen. It's as much what could happen if Trent Williams isn't there. Deal or no deal.
Yeah, I agree. It's a big deal. And for Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey, it is a comfort level to know that guy's there. If you're looking over your shoulder as a quarterback, wondering if somebody's coming on your blind side, you're not going through your progressions in the same way. You're not trusting what you need to do. You're worried about something else. You need to trust that everybody's going to do their job. That's what Trent Williams gets you at the left tackle spot.
This dog is licking my foot. Beat it.
Huh?
I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to see that on most talk shows. It's not cute when your dog comes up and starts licking my shins and feet. Just so you know, you go to people's houses and the dog tries to jump in your lap. Oh, how cute. No, it's not. So furthermore, the reason I bring that up, I said it in our thumbnail, for those that have tuned in on our social media, we said that we're going to do a fantasy primer here. No. We're not going to get into fantasy football here because it's just not my thing. And I barely get into betting. Hardly any bets at all. And I guess my question to you is, you said you're in one fantasy league. You'll probably drop some money on betting. Are they not different things? They are different things, right? For instance, Trent Williams isn't going to affect the game as we just covered. He could affect it by if he wasn't there. Why are offensive linemen not factored in when it comes to fantasy? Like, I get the deal. It's just fun. Who's going to rack up the most points? It's skill positions and defense. Listen, I have played it. But for those that don't know, because we will never be a fantasy show, because it's just not there are fantasy shows. There's a show here on Game Plus called the Fantasy Footballers. That's what they do. We don't. We talk about reality, not fantasy. But can you explain to those uninitiated, which is a lot of our audience, the difference between fantasy football and betting? Because as far as I'm concerned, there is a difference.
There is. They overlap a little bit when you start talking about player props and those types of things, over, under, catches, yards. And you want to, they have ways to bet on fantasy with DraftKings and FanDuel where you can set your lineup. But that's a little different than like betting on the games and the outcome. Fantasy, is a full league where you kind of have your fake team and you're going head to head with somebody else. It's not just a straight every single transaction win or loss. It is absolutely different. Even if, people are putting money on their fantasy football league and all the rest, those are two completely different things.
Ultimate team game, and here I'm going to defend Nathan Rourke a little bit. It's not about individual stats. It's something which is what Nathan Rourke was trying to say the other day in Touchdown Pacific. He just could have said it a little better. By the way, coming up in our Quick Six Show topics, we've got NHL here. I saw Ali from Texarkana tweeting that we need more hockey. Not us. The world needs more hockey. And it's like, there is a thing called the off season, Ali. So hang on. CFL Game of the Week. The Blue Jays, more NFL and football. By the way, it's in my commentary today. It runs on Saskatchewan radio. The NFL has a 6-month off season. I don't have a lot of time for those complaining on social media, and I've seen it from hockey fans going, I miss hockey. These are my friends. Trust me, I get it. But can you not just chill for 2 months? NFL fans are doing it for 6, and they're not whining. Not to the degree that I've seen. I'm gonna move on to hockey now, ironically. I'll come back on the next football point that I had. 2 notes from the National Hockey League. Montreal Canadiens forward Cole Caulfield, shaken by last week's death of his hockey hero, Johnny Gaudreau, said he will be switching numbers this season. The 23-year-old Caulfield will wear number 13 instead of number 22 to honor his ex-teammate and friend who was killed last Thursday while cycling with his brother Matthew. They were both struck and killed by a suspected drunk driver. Caulfield and Johnny Gaudreau played together for Team USA at the World Hockey Championship in Czechia just this past May. So I wanted to pass that along. The tributes continue. My column, my NHL column is published today in the South Florida Tribune, and I led off. I said NHL news begins and ends with Johnny Gaudreau over the past week, and I'm enjoying seeing the tributes to Johnny because they're not related to just hockey. I see the Pats Blue and White game had a Johnny Gaudreau. The Regina Pats. The New York Yankees had one. I'm pretty sure the Philadelphia Eagles are going to have one in their next home game because Johnny was an Eagles fan. I'm enjoying seeing that. There is no silver lining and really not any lesson to be learned out of this, just horrible. But the news kick-started on Tuesday with this. The Edmonton Oilers signing Leon Draisaitl to an 8-year contract extension worth $112 million on Tuesday. I think we all know now. I mean, I'm down here in Florida. I'm not seeing what TSN's saying, but Darren, it's probably been wall-to-wall coverage because it is the National Hockey League that Leon's cap hit for next season, the season after this one upcoming, will be $14 million. I'm asking this. There's my buddy, Florida East Coast train, said he was going to honk the horn when he went through. Are Oiler fans, are the Oilers not concerned that Leon Draisaitl was goalless in the Stanley Cup final? 7-game series, didn't score a goal. They're not concerned about that? And you're going to give him $14 million and make him the highest paid player in the National Hockey League? I know you have thoughts on all of this. It dropped just before we went to air yesterday. I know he's a former league MVP. I know he's top 4 players in the National Hockey League. We talked about all of that. I'm just kind of putting it out there for the Oiler fan. Are you not concerned about this? Because I think they should be. You?
Yeah, there's got to be a level of concern around it because you need your big players to be big in the biggest moments. Now, it's their first trip to the Stanley Cup. I don't think Leon was 100%. I think there was a lot of things going on there that maybe contributed to him not being as big of a factor in the Stanley Cup final. And it doesn't mean that he wasn't a factor just because he wasn't scoring. But if they're going to win cups, they're going to need him to score goals and probably score a lot of goals, especially in that Stanley Cup final. You know, and this goes back to the holdout or the offer sheets that St. Louis offered to Broberg and Holloway. You look at Leon's cap hit of $8.5 million. Okay, that's cool for this year, but those are 2-year deals. Next year, you're adding an extra $5.5 million for one player. So you have to account for that. You can't just look at the year upcoming and the cap hell that the Oilers are in. It's going to get worse if you had signed those guys next year. So you can't put all your chips in the basket for into the middle of the table for 1 year. McDavid and Draisaitl, long-term with the Oilers, are going to be like Taves and Kane in Chicago, like Malkin and Crosby in Pittsburgh. As long as they're with the Oilers, the championship window remains open. Even Pittsburgh, who are going to struggle to make the playoffs, because of those guys, Letang's included, they always have a chance to win a Stanley Cup and the ability to push beyond expectation. So as long as McDavid and Draisaitl are there, the Oilers' cup window is open.
By the way, I just popped up on the viewer comments. 902-518-3033, the numbers to text us here at Johnny O's. Who is it here? Scott in Vancouver writes in Vancouver, British Columbia. Says, yesterday there were some cute girls in the background. Today it's a dog. LOL. You just never know what you're going to get at Johnny O's, nor in life. Just keep watching, Scott. Regarding fantasy football, John in Winnipeg says, you're only as good as the man beside you in pro team sports. All in. Go Riders, go. Tony from Cochrane, Alberta says, I'm totally with you on fantasy football, Rod. Team sport. Chad in Winnipeg writes, and he says, good morning. I listen to every episode on the podcast app. It's great to catch the show live today. Chad, we're glad to have you. Regarding Neon Leon, North Texas writes in and says, Roddy, keep in mind the cap hit is only $1 million. The rest is being paid out in signing bonuses. The Oilers Ohtani'd the salary cap. Well, listen, I'm just going by what I read because it's in the media, so it's got to be true. Read it on the internet. Got to be true. The $14 million cap hit is the highest in NHL history. That's all that I'm saying. I get what you're saying. Shohei's what, making $70 million this year for the Dodgers, but they're only actually giving him $2 million? I understand what you're saying. And furthermore, I think you alluded to Leon Draisaitl being injured in the Stanley Cup final last year, and God knows how long in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But then you should get it out there. Because here in Florida, it was almost to the point of ad nauseum that it was the Panthers. Oh, we'd have beat the Golden Knights if we were healthy. Chuck had the cracked sternum, and Aaron Ekblad had a broken something or other. Then get it out there, Oilers. Because why not? Do you know what I mean? I don't see that it's been reported at all how injured Draisaitl was. Now's the time. Remember Montreal when they got swept in the Stanley Cup final by Tampa Bay? We found out that Shea Weber was basically held together by a staple gun and elastic bands. He's never played. Terry Price went into rehab after. So say it. How bad was it? Unless I've missed it. Have you?
No, I agree. I mean, I guess on the one hand, maybe it's a little admirable that the Oilers aren't firing out excuses for not winning the Stanley Cup. I mean, that's something to be proud of, for sure. But yeah, I don't think there's any questions that something was up with Leon. I just don't think we know to what extent.
Yeah, I believe producer Clark has written in and said the Oilers aren't Ohtaniing anything. Every dollar is going to the cap, which is what I believe, and I'll say it one more time. It's what I loathe about the offseason, and I'll tell you why. I mean, your good friend Peter Labardius, and mine too, has said that. I don't get into contracts in the offseason. Guys worked in the NHL for 20 years because it's all about accounting. It's all about the shell game, and it's not what you think. Yet the fans think that it is. So all I'm saying is you have made him on the books the highest paid player in the NHL per season. Is he that? Because he didn't score a goal in the Stanley Cup final. That's what I think is more important to discuss. The RP Show warm-up is brought to you by Seat Giant. Stop paying U.S. dollars for games and concerts. Canadian-owned and operated with Canadians in mind. Super Bowl, college football, Taylor Swift, Justin Timberlake. We've got it all. Use the promo code RP Show for 15% off now. Check us out at seatgiant.ca. Point 3 is the Canadian Football League's Week 14 games, Canada's Game of the Week. We've just got a couple seconds here to talk about that. The games are these. Friday, BC at Montreal, and then Saturday, a triple header. Toronto at Ottawa, Saskatchewan at Winnipeg, and Calgary at Edmonton. A triple header. You gotta love it. A buffet of Canadian football on Saturday. And I'll just tell you right now, leading the way in our poll is the Banjo Bowl by a whopping margin. Number 2 is BC at Montreal, which surprises me a little bit, although for a long time I thought that would be a Grey Cup preview, and it might still. We'll take a brief pause, come back. We got more football to get to, Blue Jays, and this CFL discussion next. The Sports Doctor and Ryan Leslie are on the way. We're broadcasting live from Johnny O's in Boca Raton, Florida, on the Game Plus Television Network, WQEE Radio 99.1 FM, live streaming on YouTube, and, of course, Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Sounds like he knows what he's doing a little bit. As long as you're entertained. Aren't you entertained?
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
The 80s Club, live in Moose Jaw. Honeymoon Suite, along with a flock of seagulls. Men without hats. And spoons. All together for one night at Moose Jaw Event Center, Saturday, November 16th. Tickets on sale now at sastix.ca or the Moose Jaw Event Center box office.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Hey, honey, can you get one of the kids to show me how this Twitter thing works? Honey, I need to get on Instagram. Time for more of the Rod Pedersen Show.
Hockey players, are you looking for the perfect place to perfect your shot? Look no further than Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary. With state-of-the-art shooting lanes and top-notch equipment, it's the ultimate training destination for players of all ages and skill levels. Whether you're prepping for the big game or you just want to have some fun, Overtime Hockey Lanes has got you covered. 28th Street Northeast, Calgary. If we can bring the Moose in, I was just perusing some of the comments from the audience. Darren and Tony in George Fox Country writes in, he says, the Goudreau Memorial on the Saddledome steps is now huge and growing. A tribute and concert at the Dome is happening tonight. Thank you for the info, Tony. John Ohm in Winnipeg says, very classy what the Calgary Flames are doing. The NHL is one big family. Bravo. And I feel like I've been thinking so much about this Goudreau thing. You don't want to have to compare tragedies, but it's the biggest tragedy in the NHL in some time for sure. BW in Edmonton says, good day. Can the Oilers keep the core together without trading Nurse's contract? The Bouchard bomber is worth that money. A Bouchard bomb. We'll come back on that. Paul in Humboldt, Sask, writes, speaking to these, writes in, he says, I'm too old for fantasy sports. Live sports is my escape from real life. That's what I'm saying. But again, it's in my commentary. WWE, Fantasy sports, fantasy football. There's millions of people into it. Billion-dollar industries. I get there's room for it. I'm just not one of them. But again, Darren, we brought the CFL fans into this in terms of our poll. And again, the Banjo Bowl is running away with it. So let's spend some time on this. Now that we enter the third of the final third, it's the home stretch of the CFL season. Given all that you know and all that we've seen through 13 weeks, who's your Grey Cup preview?
I honestly
Grey
feel
Cup
like the Grey Cup.
Sorry.
Yeah, if I was, putting money on it right now, I would probably. This is going to be crazy. Ish. Montreal and Edmonton will meet in the Grey Cup today. That's what I believe.
I got to make a note of this. Montreal, and that'll be the meme. Montreal, and so get ready. Get a helmet on this afternoon, Darren. Are you going to have to explain why?
Well, I go back to the beginning of the season under Chris Jones, and the Edmonton team had a lot of really good processes in place. They actually played pretty good football, and they just came out on the wrong end of a lot of games, a lot of really close one-score games. But Jarius Jackson has somehow unlocked the ability for that Edmonton team to get over the hump, and they're playing free. They seem to be playing loose. They're loaded with playmakers on both sides of the football. And now we've seen that Trey Ford can win football games and McLeod Bethel-Thompson can win football games. So they've got two quarterbacks that can win at a high level in this league. They can run the ball really well with anybody. They've got playmakers. Eugene Lewis isn't even, registering right now if he gets going. I just think Edmonton is just been flying under the radar for too long.
I love the analysis. I like what you say that Jarius is unlocked, however you put it. I saw the interview with Scott Milanovich after Hamilton's win, their head coach, the former quarterback's coach of the Indy Colts, where he said what a long year it's been. He goes, we've had to fire 2 coordinators. Oh, wait, I thought they mutually agreed to part ways. Isn't that what they said at the time? Never mutual, Darren. Who did they get rid of? Was it, I don't even remember now. Was it Tommy Condell? And obviously Mark Washington most recently. That's the one thing about pro sport that I know nobody cares. Absolute and utter carnage. The fans just sit back and see these guys get fired, and they have to deal with the litigation and, what it does to their families, pick up and move, what it does to your career. I get it. I was interested that Milanovich would say that. He fired them. And with Jones, I was on the radio in Edmonton yesterday, and we were talking with Eddie Steele and Kevin Carey about how the Elks are all Jones's team. There is something to be said for you can take a team only so far. We saw it in Saskatchewan with Roy Shivers and Danny Barrett. They took it from where the worst they ever were in Rider history, 1999, when Roy and Danny came in. A lot of guys turned that job down. Shivers and Barrett said, we'll do it. And they came in and took that team only so far. Shivers is getting into the Hall of Fame now, and probably Danny should too for what they did, but you can only go so far. Jones took that team only so far, and now he's over in Hamilton doing great things. Speaking of the carnage, by the way, I just want to pass this along about this industry that, again, people don't care, and I understand that people get let go all the time in life, but talked to my good friend Jeff Chikrin yesterday. Will not be returning for a 6th season as a Florida Panthers television analyst. The Ottawa product, the Panthers switching television carriers, going from Bally Sports Florida to Scripps Sports, and it just happens when teams change broadcast carriers, they're going to change personnel. Jeff Chikrin won't be back, and he's like, hey, it is what it is. Hopefully could be involved down the line, but you see it's just people think it's like, whoop, no big deal. It's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it is.
So Hamilton blows out those coordinators. Edmonton fires a coach, just to get back on point here. And you look at all the changes teams have made. Montreal, I don't get why nobody's talking about Montreal. Are they not 10-11? 10-1 out of 11 games. They got a chance to do what Toronto did last year. Did Toronto not clinch first by mid-September? You know, they had a half a season that didn't mean anything. So now we're down to the final third for the Montreal Alouettes. Is there a danger, do you think, for them of clinching too soon?
There is. There's always a danger of complacency, especially, what's going to change this year is you've got Toronto, probably Ottawa and Hamilton all in really a dogfight playing playoff football now the rest of the way. They really are. They're playing playoff football the rest of the way. There's going to be multiple head-to-heads between them, and Montreal's in the driver's seat. So unless they, something happens and they drop a couple of games here and things get interesting, there is a concern of complacency, especially when they've been so good for so long. You go back to last season and the run they went on, and then through the Grey Cup, and then this season, and none of this has been without adversity. They've had to come back in games. I get that multiple times. But what's going to happen if they lose one or two in a row here? Can they recover? That's when you'll see some pressure on Jason Moss and Cody Fajardo.
It's interesting because the Argos last year didn't do anything wrong, Toronto. They just clinched in mid-September, the earliest ever, I think at 12-1. That's what you want to do. Win every game if you can. And then they didn't handle it well, hosting in the Eastern Final, how they handled their personnel, but now they have a chance to redeem themselves this year. It's a heck of a story. A couple other points I want to get to. The Toronto Blue Jays look to bounce back. This is point 4 from a 10-9 loss as they close out a 2-game series with the Philadelphia Phillies at Rogers Center tonight. Kyle Schwarber smacked 3 home runs last night as the Phillies overcame a 5-run deficit. Meanwhile, the Baltimore Orioles enter play tonight with a half-game lead on second-place New York in the American League East. It's easily the tightest divisional race in the big leagues. I'll say this, Blue Jays out of it, not following it anymore. You got to win. People tune out if you don't. Sorry. Point 5, it's a message that came in from Brian in Hudson's Bay, relates to this. Brian says, well, good morning, boys. It's Christmas Eve. Can't wait. Should be a great game to start things off in the NFL. I got the Niners and the Ravens Super Bowl this year. My Vikings, oh boy, I see them winning around 7 games at best. Riders and Vikings, man, I love misery. Have a good day, boys. That's from Brian in Hudson's Bay. So as I promised, back to the NFL. Focus on a Super Bowl three-peat has begun. The NFL regular season kicks off Thursday with a rematch of last season's AFC Championship game between the visiting Ravens and the host Chiefs. Kansas City finished 2023 with an 11-6 record. They then beat the 49ers 25-22 in the Super Bowl for their second straight title. That game was on the NFL Network the other day. I was like, I should probably go back and watch that game. I mean, I was there, but with all the pomp and the circumstance, I should go back and see how it looked on television. Pretty wild scene in Vegas last year. This year it's going to be in New Orleans, the Super Bowl, and Darren has already picked a Montreal-Edmonton Grey Cup. What have I said? I said Detroit, Kansas City Super Bowl. That's mine. What's yours?
I haven't put a lot of thought into a Super Bowl matchup, but I will. I'm going to say that Baltimore is going to come out of the AFC this year, not Kansas City. Baltimore is going to get to the Super Bowl. And on the other side, in the NFC, I'm going to say that the 49ers get right back there. Let's do the 49ers and the Baltimore Ravens. Rematch of
There's a case to be made.
The Harbaugh.
The Harbaugh versus Harbaugh? 20. Yeah. It's been longer than you think. Longer than you think. I want to think it was like 20,
the lights go out.
2012, 2013. Yeah, and Kaepernick was, trust me. I remember it well. We were having a Super Bowl party at the Four Seasons. I flew back from Mexico the night before. I was dead tired hosting a Super Bowl party at the Four Seasons. I'm like, oh my God. And now the power goes out, which, by the way, it lasted for an hour. Oh my God. Glenn writes in, he says, good analysis, Moose. This is on the Elks. I credit the defense to the toll of Jones. Time will tell, and I expect many surprises. Honestly, that's the thing. I was talking to Buck the other day about how things are going to shake down in the Canadian Football League. That is the 3-time Florida 5A state champion head football coach, Matt Dubuck, of the Cardinal-Gibbons Chiefs, and he's got his picks as to how he thinks things are going to shake out in the CFL West. He played in the CFL with Winnipeg and Toronto. I'm like, listen, these final 6 games are going to sort it all out. Just to sit here and talk about what's going to happen, nobody knows. They're going to decide it amongst each other, which we'll probably spend more time on in hour 2. That's where it's more conversational, right? We get to today's sports items in hour 1. In hour 2, we kind of turn it over to the viewers. But I'm going to a Stanley Cup party tonight with Matt Dubuck. And to be honest, I've got I love, this is now my home. I got a lot of friends writing me going, texting me, how come they're watching this show? They're like, how come you didn't ask us to go to the Stanley Cup party? I'm like, because I was invited. I thought I would be, if I brought a date, it would be kind of jerkish. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to the party tonight with Matt Dubuck because he knows how much I'll appreciate it. I can't bring people with me. From the audience, John Ohm says Detroit versus San Francisco Super Bowl. That can't happen because they're in the same conference. Randy from Winnipeg says Detroit versus Baltimore Super Bowl. That could happen. Stephen in North Dakota writes it. He says the Vikings will be playing for the #1 draft pick in Sandbag. I hope not. I really hope not. But Sam Darnold ain't getting them there. Okay, Moose, I will see you in hour 2.
You bet. See you then.
Doctor, give me the news. He's coming up next. We're live from Johnny O's Gymnasium here on the Game Plus Television Network, on the radio, WQEE 99.1 FM. Live streaming on YouTube as always, and of course, Apple Podcast and Spotify.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at IKSGameDay.com.
Now the race is on and here comes pride in the backstretch.
Celebrate 40 years of Sawyer Brown.
Some girls don't like boys like me.
With Shenandoah.
You got to get me to the church on the Cumberland Road.
Plus special guest George Fox. Saturday, October 26th, Moose Jaw Event Center.
I'll take the dirt road.
Tickets are on sale now at the Moose Jaw Event Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
6 days on the road and I'm
Sawyer Brown and Shenandoah live.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. DDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Send us your opinions now. We won't victimize you unless you really deserve it. Now, back to your host, Rod Pedersen.
The RP Show, broadcasting live from Johnny O's Gymnasium in Boca Raton, Florida. We're brought to you in part by EMJ Marketing. Connect with thought leaders and industry experts through EMJ Marketing's Speakers Bureau. Visit us at emjmarketing.com. Before we get to what you are voting Canada's Game of the Week, the Banjo Bowl, let's bring in the sports doctor, Dave Patrician. He is a Minnesota Vikings season ticket holder. Hey, Doc, good to see you again. Long time no see, bro. Just before the break, you might have seen Buffalo Bill wrote in and expects the Vikings will be battling it out for the #1 overall pick. Do you think it's going to be that bad given what's happened in training camp for the Vikes?
No, I don't think it's going to be that bad. He's got a pretty good schedule. Start with the Giants on the road, which is always tough. Got the 49ers at home, which is tough. But you've got the Texans, and you've got other games this year against Jacksonville and the Colts, the Rams, a couple of days with the Lions. I think the Vikings are going to be competitive and definitely not the bottom dwellers of the NFL.
Okay, good. There you go for the Vikings fans and the NFL fans. Before we look ahead, let's look back for a minute. You and I spent some time together on Labor Day Classic weekend in Regina. Thanks for coming out, man, and supporting our events. What was your weekend like? Your Bombers won 35-33 at Sask Sunday. How was it?
Well, anytime your team comes out ahead, it makes your weekend that much better. But, we've talked about this on this program many, many times throughout the years that it used to just be such a dreadful experience to come to the old stadium and the way the people were. But, it really has – the Labor Day Classic has a Grey Cup feel in terms of parties and hosts and welcoming places. The doors have been thrown open. Not everybody understands business, and this is good for business when you get 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 more people into your town spending money. But it was a tremendous experience. Again, we're smiling. There was no bad experiences. Even though we won, we weren't getting pelted with half-broken beer cans or flags or peanuts or anything. So that's always a good thing. But the football game was exciting. So I think when that happens, when, the Rough Riders to lose in the way they did, they clawed back and they made such a game of it. And it, really came down to a missed attempt on a 2-point convert and then a kind of an improbable field goal that even the best of them would have a difficult time doing. So there's no shame in losing, although the sting of 6 losses in a row probably feels very, very bad.
Don't worry about consoling them, Dave. There's nothing you can say that's going to make them feel any better about that loss. And by the way, it was a 60-yard field goal that Brett Lauther was trotted out there to try and make and win the game. And it didn't happen. Well, let's look ahead to the Banjo Bowl. Bombers have won 4 in a row. They'll be going for 5 on Saturday. So what's got you excited about the Banjo Bowl on Saturday? It's been sold out for ages, right?
Yeah, and just as much as the atmosphere at Mosaic Stadium is tremendous for the Labor Day game, this is like on steroids because first and foremost, the game was sold out really before any Saskatchewan fans could even get their hands on tickets. There will be a smattering of green in the crowd, but there's just such an energy of a 2:00 in the afternoon Saturday football game, and this, it's going to be the atmosphere is just not comparable to anything I've ever been to. This is like on par with an NFL experience. There's going to be people tailgating in the parking lots from like 6 o'clock in the morning. The stadium throws open their doors to the actual tailgate party 3 hours before the game at 11 o'clock in the morning. So the fans will be excited. The fans will be lubricated. And this is going to be just one great experience and a great football game because our team is on a roll. Like we're really, like you said, going for another victory after a lousy start, and really can cement a good spot in the West Division. Really cement first place with come out with a victory.
Well, I hope they keep it safe. Nobody likes seeing the brawl at the end of the Labor Day Classic. I got to be honest with you. I've been going to those games since the 80s, whether it be a fan or a broadcaster, and I saw the Rider fans saying with all the hype going in, this feels like the old days. We used to sell out every game. It's great. Well, in the old days, you did. And then there was guys chucking knuckles at the end back in the day. I feel like you can't have one without the other. You can't build up the rivalry and the hype and then not expect this kind of thing to happen.
Yeah, there's friendly rivalry and there's the friendly, playful banter between teams, and at the end it's like professional wrestling, right? Having a beer with the guy sitting across from you later in the bar. But it happens on both sides. We're not going to point any fingers directly at Saskatchewan fans or Winnipeg fans. It's just a combination of exciting football, nice weather, and a lot of beer.
By the way, the poll question is, what is Canada's game of the week in the CFL? And running away with it, last I looked, with over 75% of the vote, is the Banjo Bowl, Winnipeg home to Saskatchewan. Now, Jeff, the Stamps fan, writes in, and he says, a game between a winner of 4 straight versus a loser of 6 straight is not the game of the week. Guy, don't come at us that your fans aren't engaged. And I might add, our top 2 cities or regions for viewership are Saskatchewan and Winnipeg. So that might have something to do with the vote. But I really think it is the game of the week. Give me a case, just forget that. Out of the 3 others, what is the game of the week in your mind? BC at Montreal Friday, Dave. Toronto at Ottawa. And Calgary at Edmonton.
If it was a Toronto-Hamilton rematch, because that game on Monday was very exciting, that would be in the running. Ottawa is a strong team. They're number 2 in the CFL power rankings right now. Toronto, had a hard-fought battle against Hamilton, but nobody really can call that the game of the week. And BC has a share of first place. They're very, very close. Montreal is running away with the East. That'll be a tremendous football game. And the Calgary-Edmonton game, I'm sorry, that wasn't just much of a game to watch on last Monday. So, again, it's the excitement level. We know that wherever they're playing Ottawa, Toronto, they're not going to have 33,000 fans like they are in Winnipeg, which adds to the atmosphere. And like I said, it's an NFL atmosphere. It's absolutely electric when the building's full. And everybody who's at Mosaic Stadium on Sunday in Regina knows that's the case, too. That makes the game better.
Taylor in Calgary writes in and he says, if Jake Maier plays like he played on Labor Day on Saturday, it's time to bench him. I'll be honest, here's what's exhausting in the Canadian Football League. Dave Dickinson and Jake Maier, 1 week up, 1 week down. Can you pick one? And then Bo Levi Mitchell with Hamilton. I'm old enough to remember when he was washed up. Wasn't it like a month ago? Pick one, Bo. Are you going to look like the 2014 Bo or the 2024 Bo? Pick one. But by the way, I can't let you go because, as you know, I value your opinion. I count you as one of my closest friends, Dave. I want you to tell me what you think about sideline and halftime interviews and if they are even important anymore, if they should go away, because 72% of respondents in our poll yesterday said, no, we don't need him. What did you think of Nathan Rourke big-timing Farhan on Saturday in Touchdown Pacific?
Yeah, if you wanted to go on that thing saying, hey, I don't want the spotlight on me, this is a team game, you want to say something like that, maybe you get it. But you know what? It's part of the game. You watch now, National Hockey League broadcaster interviewing the coach on the bench during the game. Preseason NFL, they've got reporters pulling guys off the sidelines talking to games. I think it's, you can't have too much publicity, and it's the inclusion thing. We're an inclusive society now, and that wasn't good form on Nathan Rourke. This is a guy that didn't look good in his first 2 games, and yeah, he looked impressive on Saturday in Victoria, but. No, you got to do everything you can to put bums in seats and sell another ticket. And if you do stuff like that, you're going to put people off. You can understand if there's hard feelings after a loss and things like that, and just the moment. Yeah. But you still got to be cordial, and you got to remember you're in the entertainment business as much as you are in professional sports.
Yeah, that's the thing. They were winning. You can see it if they were losing. But yeah, I wish that some people worked a little more closely to sell the game together, but that's the way that it is. David, thanks for hopping on, man. Always fun. Have a safe, fun Banjo Bowl weekend.
Yeah, it was great seeing you and everybody, and Ricky down at Ballers, and then, of course, we went to George the Four Seasons and all the great places, and hadn't been in Regina for several months, and it was just great back. It's almost like my second home.
Always a great time, man. Thank you, Dave. See you. The
Thanks.
Sports Doctor, Dave Pedersen. Sports update when we come back. And viewer takeover. We're having a great one today. Whatever you'd like to get off your chest, let us know now. 902-518-3033. We'll be back in a moment here on Game Plus Television, WQEE Radio, 99.1 FM. Of course, live streaming on YouTube and Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Business owners and marketers, Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with The Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Did you know you can catch all the best moments from the show on all our social media platforms? Now, back to the studio with Rod.
RP Show continues. Enjoying the back and forth with Oiler fans today. In the warm-up, I said, are the Oilers concerned at all that Leon Draisaitl was goalless in the Stanley Cup final? And to be honest, they're not jumping down my throat like normal. They're like, hey, it's come out now that, what they say, broken, cracked ribs, broken hand, blah, blah, blah. So thanks. Dustin Nielsen from TSN saying no. One simple retweet. Could have been worse. And I'll say this, then say it. Is it we had to wait until he signs an 8-year, $112 million extension to know that he was that hurt in the Stanley Cup final? Handle your business how you want. I'm just saying with the Panthers here, when they lost in 5 to Vegas in the Stanley Cup final, they weren't even back in South Florida yet before they told everybody Tkachuk had the broken sternum and all the various injuries, and that sold it to everybody here that, oh, we'd have won if we weren't hurt. Everybody believed it. I guess he was hurt. Was that reported at the time? I think it was insinuated, but wasn't widely known. We'll talk about that more next hour. Sports Update as promised. Instead of talking about Florida State's losses, let's focus on the teams that beat the Seminoles so far this year. With a 2-0 start that included a victory in Ireland over FSU, Georgia Tech moved into the Associated Press college football poll for the first time in 9 years. The Yellow Jackets were ranked number 23 in the first regular season top 25. Georgia Tech's AP top 25 drought was the third longest among power conference teams. Boston College, which beat Florida State on Monday night, also received votes in the poll. Adding Clemson's loss, the two teams suing the ACC are now 0-3. How about that? The days of NFL rookie quarterbacks waiting their turns before taking over teams is long gone. For the third time in 4 years, there will be 3 rookie quarterbacks starting the season opener in the NFL. Number 1 draft pick Caleb Williams got the nod for Chicago. Number 2 pick Jaden Daniels for Washington. And number 12 pick Bo Nix for Denver. Meaning half of the record-tying 6 quarterbacks taken in round 1 became immediate starters. Before 2021, there was only one season since the 1970 merger when at least 3 rookie quarterbacks started the opener. That came in 2012 when 5 did. Sports Updates brought to you by Landmark Cinemas. And Landmark Cinemas now the movie Blink Twice, when tech billionaire Slate King, played by Channing Tatum, meets cocktail waitress Freda at his fundraising gala. Sparks fly. He invites her to join him and his friends on a dream vacation on his private island. It's paradise. But as strange things start to happen, Frida begins to question her reality. There is something wrong with this place. She'll have to uncover the truth if she wants to make it out of this party alive. Dun, dun, dun. I'll say, based loosely on the Jeffrey Epstein story and his fantasy island, it's weird. But I went to it. I'm not going to tell you not to, but I will say go with an open mind. So we'll talk more about this Oilers stuff when we come back in hour 2. More NFL, CFL, and then whatever else you would like to discuss. That's what we do here on the RP Show. 902-518-3033. Broadcasting live from Johnny O's Gymnasium. We'll be back after this brief pause in the top of the hour here on Game Plus, WQEE Radio, and of course live streaming on YouTube.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at IKSGameDay.com.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with The Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
This former producer of major market television shows writing into us anonymously to say he just found our show on Game Plus Television. Here's some tips. The show has ADD. It's all over the place. Your sound effects are annoying. And your host is arrogant. Right on all counts. But that's what we want. That's what we wanted it to be.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
Just literally destroyed that guy to the point that he's never come back. Welcome to the RP Show, everybody. We are live at Johnny O's Gymnasium, Florida's largest outdoor workout facility, home to several NFL players who are becoming good friends of mine. Just like the most, speaking of good friends, let's bring him in. He is in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. He's heading to the motherland, Western Canada, later this week to broadcast Canadian University football. Just a quick update of what's going on. We're talking about Leon Draisaitl and his 8-year, $112 million extension. And Darren, I got to be honest, I'm very impressed. I feel like today we've made some headway with Edmonton Oilers fans. Have you looked at any of the reaction from their media and fans? They're not jumping down my throat. They're like, hey, he was hurt. Check out what Bob Stauffer had to say. Okay, because I wasn't trolling. I was throwing it out there for debate. It's talk television, talk radio. It's what we do. I'm like, the guy didn't have a goal in the Stanley Cup final through 7 games. Are we not concerned about that? On the verge of making him the highest paid player in the NHL per average annual value kicking in next year. They were very respectful about it. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's good. That's the way it should be, you know. Because on the one hand, it's hard to defend, right? I mean, if you're an Oiler fan, he didn't score in the final, and you need him to score. But I think they're not panicking in Edmonton, and that's a good thing. They're not panicking. They're not worried. That's their first trip there. A lot of pressure. They think they'll be back, and they got good reason to think that way.
I was explaining to some folks here, because this is only the second day of us being at Johnny O's Gymnasium, and I don't want to go too far down the road of explaining this because it's tedious to me, but it's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, it's a show on national television in Canada and on the radio in Atlanta, and this is what we do, and this is what we talk about. We're not changing. I dabbled with intricate college football stuff, Inter-Miami soccer, and I realized, no, that's just going to turn people off. We're going to keep doing what we do every day, and that's talking about the NHL, CFL, and NFL. If you like it, stay. If you don't, run along. But this is what we do here. And by the way, we do have a lot of NFL, CFL to get to here in hour two. People really enjoy hour two because it's more conversational. Hour one is about the sports headlines of the day, which include the poll question today. What is Canada's game of the week in the Canadian Football League? It's not even the return match of the Labor Day games, for the love of God. Two of them they are. The Riders and the Bombers, obviously, in the Banjo Bowl on Saturday. And then also on Saturday is part of the triple-header, Calgary at Edmonton. But then the Battle of Ontario shifts. On Monday, it was Hamilton and Ottawa. Hamilton and Toronto. I'm a little distracted, Darren, as you can see in a second. Now it's Toronto-Ottawa. On Monday, it was Toronto-Hamilton, right? And then BC and Montreal get going Friday night. And Montreal didn't even play last weekend, so it's a little disjointed. As confusing as that is, I can tell you who's winning the poll, and that is the Banjo Bowl with over 75% of the vote. Blue Jays lost again. What's new? Not following them anymore. And the NFL season kicks off on Thursday night with Baltimore, Kansas City. We're taking everybody's Super Bowl predictions. On the Draisaitl thing, if I may, Tony from George Fox Country writes in and says it takes 4 lines and great goaltending to win the Cup. Oilers are a 2-man team and a long way from being champions, folks. But you're a Flames fan. I'm going to have to say your opinion, while valued, doesn't count because you're a Flames fan. Jen at the Four Seasons writes in and she says, honestly, I think he was only good for 12, not 14 million, but good for him. I'm happy he's not going anywhere. BW in Edmonton says percentage of revenue in the NBA is compared to the NHL. The money the NBA is throwing around more than third world countries. LeBron makes $101 million for 2 years. Yes, but the rosters are half as big. It's 12 guys on a basketball team, 25 on a hockey team. But let me just say this. This is the formula. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't try to be a general manager. I don't try to be a coach. That's what makes me different from every other show. But Darren, the Oilers, I think, have kind of figured it out by paying a lot of money to 2 top guys. Because listen, in Calgary, where I spent a lot of time the last 2 years, it's a pout fest. We don't have a McDavid. We don't have a Draisaitl. We don't have a star. Well, what do you have? But in the NFL, they're like, let's pay that iconic player. Let's give the bag to the Patrick Mahomes, to the Tua, to the Lamar Jackson, and we'll fit everybody else around them. Because what we're going to talk about today on the Cats and Bolts podcast, filming this afternoon at Podcast Junkies, and is also in my column in the South Florida Tribune published today, Steven Lorentz, gone. From last year's Stanley Cup champion Panthers. Steven Lorentz, gone. Nick Cousins, gone. Brandon Mott, gone. Ryan Lomberg, gone. Anthony Stolarz, gone. Josh Mahura, gone. I almost said Gary Mahura. That's his uncle. Good friend of mine. Those guys are all bit parts. They're the dressing around the turkey. They're replaceable. The turkey is not. You know what I mean?
Sides come and go, man. The sides come and go. That's why when you go to the restaurant, You got your choice of 2 sides on a list of like 8, right? They can always, the meal's going to be great. You just got to pick which ones are right for you at the time with the way you're feeling and, how much you want to eat. And it's the same with hockey teams. You have to find the right players to complement what you're trying to accomplish that season. It can't just be the same plug and play every single year. Your core is what really matters. It's your core. Yes, you need four lines playing well.
Yeah.
But it's Draisaitl and McDavid that are going to lead you to a Stanley Cup. Let's make no mistake about it.
Yes. There's not just one way to do it. They say that these leagues are copycat leagues. In a lot of ways, they are. But say it with me. The Belichicks and the Andy Reids, these guys are so far ahead of everybody else. It's the Rowdy Roddy Piper line. Just when you think you got the answers, I change the questions. You know, if you can't figure this out on you're trying to do what Sean McVay did with the Rams and spend credit card money and get the Jalen Ramseys and give Aaron Donald the bag and Stafford. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Now look at the Florida Panthers here. They gave $8 million to Kachuk, $8 million to the captain, Barkov. They gave $10.5 million to Sergei Bobrovsky. Nobody's paying that much for their goalie, other than the Habs and Carey Price. And if I may, he was worth it. But as I do talk to the personnel guys, believe me, I do, they say that's why the quarterbacks get so much money in the NFL, because that's why they have not committed to Dak Prescott in Dallas yet, which is a whole other thing that just popped into my head. They were talking this morning on ESPN radio about why Dak hasn't extended with Dallas yet, and maybe Dak Prescott, for those that don't know, maybe Dak doesn't want to extend with the Cowboys. There is a possibility that the Cowboys are a toxic organization and may never win. Have we thought about that? The Chiefs clearly are not, as they go for a three-peat, and they genuinely seem to all get along. The Patriots, I think, did for a long time with their 6 Super Bowls. Do you see a point in any of that? Because I'm not sure I have one.
No, but the point is every team does it a different way. You talked about that, paying the goaltenders and paying star players, and the way that Florida did it is different than the way Tampa Bay did it, and different than the way the Oilers are trying to do it. And then you look at the San Francisco 49ers, and they're doing it with the last pick in the draft. Not what you would call a marquee quarterback, but he's turned into a pretty good quarterback, and they're doing it their own way. So everybody does it a little differently, but you have to do it your way, buy in, and, go after it in the way that you want to go after it. You can't do it trying to be like somebody else. You said copycat league. By the time you're trying to catch up to what the Penguins were doing when they were winning their cups, it's a different way that's winning now. And the cycle changes so fast. If you're just trying to copycat somebody, you're always going to be behind.
And that's why some teams always lose. And our business is really no different. I'll be honest with you. I believe Tim and Sid on Sportsnet were Sportsnet's answer to Jay and Dan. You know what I mean? Like they copy each other in this business too. And now it did work for Tim and Sid. There's no doubt it did work. They had a good long run. But, it wasn't original. With regards to what we talk about on this program, Wayne in BC says, that really makes sense, Rod. If you like NHL, NFL, and CFL talk, stay with us. If not, move along. It took us a while to figure that out. Me. But at least we got it. And that's why I do my Florida things down here and keep them separate. The Cats and Bolts podcast is separate. If you want to tune into that, you can. But I'm not going to bring it here. Panthers and Lightning talk. And my column in the South Florida Tribune. It only took me 3 years, but at least I finally figured it out. It's 1:11 Eastern, 11:11 Mountain. Going to point that out. Manifest a positivity.
Beautiful.
What have you got to lose? 902-518-3033 is the text line to write us, or on the YouTube feed as well. Jay in Winnipeg writes in, he says, you don't throw rocks at a man with a machine gun, Rod. Jay, explain to me what you mean by that. I'm sure you're right. I would just like to know what you mean by that. John says, that's an interesting comment. Dallas Cowboys, toxic. Does that start at ownership, Rod? You know how I feel because you watch the show every day. So, on the Dallas Cowboys. But I will say this, the Oilers are coming at us, the Oilers fans are coming at us, saying, yeah, but it's whataboutism. What about the Leafs? What about the Leafs? They're paying all this money. They never win. What are your thoughts on the core? Because just because they haven't doesn't mean they never will. What do you think about that?
It takes time. It takes time. It doesn't happen right away all the time. It does. It can happen right away, but it doesn't always happen right away. You need to learn how to win, learn what it takes to get over the hump. They're right up against it, though. You know, you have to be patient. You have to give them opportunities to fail, to be in those situations and learn. But you do need to see some growth. And we've seen it. I mean, they won a playoff round. You know, they battled back this past playoffs to force Game 7 against Boston. Those were signs of some growth. But now the days of moral victories have to be in the rearview mirror. You need to find some serious growth now. So, yeah, stick with them. I'm okay. But the rope is getting pretty short.
Well, you need to also decide when the window closes, when you're in it, and when does it close. I think I think the Pittsburgh Penguins window has closed. Are they aware? I don't think that they are. So there's that. Kirk in Toronto writes in regarding our comment of the sideline interviews. Are you for them or are you against them? I'm a little surprised that the sports doctor last hour mentioned that he's for them, as are you. But Kirk in Toronto writes in, he says, time to end the sideline reporting during games. The questions are mundane, and so are many of the answers. If we have 3 minutes in this segment. No, you're good. You're good. 3 minutes in this segment, and then in that 3 minutes, you didn't tell me what is the most memorable sideline interview. Wait a minute, I have it. Joe Namath, Susie Colbert. I want to kiss you. Broadway Joe never drank after that. Something to be said about your rock bottom being on national television on Monday Night Football. I think that is the GOAT of sideline interviews. Can you think of another way? And by the way, there would be a good reason to get rid of them. What do you think?
You know, again, I'm for them. And I think the way I look at them is they're not for you and me. You know, they're not necessarily for us. They're to, you know, the fans who have no idea who these guys are, who have never watched the game. Typically the younger fans, it's a chance to get to know the players, see how they talk, how they act, just the way they conduct themselves. Not really more about what they say. The one that jumps out to me is, I think, Pierre Maguire and Phil Kessel, if you remember that one, on the bench. Pierre Maguire was asking Phil Kessel about something. Yeah, and Kessel thought he told him he stunk, and how's your breath? Yeah, because he was tired. How's your breath? Oh, yeah, I know. Stinks, eh? Kessel had no idea. That was pretty funny.
That was a really good one.
No, are you tired? You're out there a lot.
Definitely the Joe Namath one is number one. Anybody else, though, I would invite anybody's audience participation on this next. What is the most memorable sideline/intermission interview that you can remember? And by the way, well, that's a hockey one. I was going to say hockey's the worst interviews because the guys are generally boring. The football guys are just such volatile powder kegs. You literally never know what they're going to say. What's the most memorable sideline/halftime intermission interviews? We got a lot to get to when we come back. We are live on the Game Plus Television Network. Of course, WQEE Radio, 99.1 FM, live streaming on YouTube as always, and of course, Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at IKSGameDay.com.
902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
The 80s Club, live in Moose Jaw. Honeymoon Suite, along with a flock of seagulls. Men without hats. And spoons. All together for one night at Moose Jaw Event Center, Saturday, November 16th. Tickets on sale now at sasktix.ca or the Moose Jaw Event Center box office.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
Sounds like he knows what he's doing a little bit. As long as you're entertained. Aren't you entertained?
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Send us your opinions now. We won't victimize you unless you really deserve it. Now, back to your host, Rod Pedersen.
RP Show brought to you in part by Sept Giant. Stop paying U.S. dollars for games and concerts. Canadian-owned and operated with Canadians in mind. Super Bowl, college football, Taylor Swift, Justin Timberlake. We've got it all. Use promo code RP Show for 15% off now. Check us out at SeatGiant.ca. I do want to plunge into some more football talk in a second, but if we can bring Boost in from Toronto, home of the Leafs, you know, with the big news that Leon Draisaitl will be the highest paid player in the NHL, a $14 million cap hit next year. And I said, is there any concern from the Oilers that he didn't score a goal in the Stanley Cup final? Everybody's pushing back, respectfully saying he was hurt. Jeff, the Stamps fan, writes in and says, this will be unpopular, but if NHL players are playing that hurt, maybe someone needs to address player safety. Because I brought up Shea Weber and Carey Price from the Stanley Cup final a couple years ago and never played again, like 3 years ago. The Golden Knights beating Florida in 5 in this final. The word all around here was that the Panthers were hurt, which they were. Why didn't the Oilers make this known? I get you're not going to do it during the series. I totally get that. But it doesn't come out till now how injured he was? Is there a player safety component to this, Darren, or not?
Yes and no. There always is a player safety component when you have players playing hurt. But winning a Stanley Cup, that's a player's choice to play hurt. And the players, dates back as long as the NHL is around. They'll play. If they can get on the ice and play and win a Stanley Cup, they will. Matthew Tkachuk 2 years ago played through a lot, didn't play in the deciding game because he just couldn't anymore. He played as long as he physically could. And obviously, if, the risk outweighed, the reward, they wouldn't play, and they don't when that's the case. But typically these are players who just want to win, man, and you admire that.
Yeah, well, the Oilers clearly saying, hey, Dry at 80% is better than this guy at 100%. It's their choice. But the one thing is the players are always going to want to play. I was watching the early game on the CFL Monday doubleheader, and they took one of the players out for Hamilton with spotter concussion protocol. Spotter took him out, and I'm like, oh, he's not going to be happy with that. It's a gray area. We have never, I don't think, got,
the one thing that we're getting right, is we're not messing around anymore with head injuries, or at least we're trying not to. If there's a head injury, players are out, and they won't let you come back in, even if you want to. Broken arm, you got, finger injuries, you got a hamstring pull, whatever. We'll let that go, but we're not messing around with the head. That's a good thing.
Regarding memorable sideline interviews, Laverne in Swift Current writes in and says, Aaron Andrews interviews Richard Sherman as he ripped Michael Crabtree, a new one. Remember that one? You know what's interesting about all this? I feel like I was watching them all, and probably everybody watching this show right now was watching those interviews live. My point is, everybody's like, what did he just say? And I can't remember if this was before
like
PR. Yeah, you don't try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree. But it was something about talking noise, right? Because Aaron Andrews was like, who's talking about the way they said it? Or the way she said it? Yeah. I feel like if the Curtis Rourke, that's his brother, Nathan Rourke interview had not aired on TSN, TSN would have done a whole top 10 sideline interview mishaps. But, of course, they want to just scooch that under the rug because it was Nathan Rourke, the face of the CFL, and obviously not something they want to put a spotlight on. You know what I mean? But so we're getting a list here. Number one, can we all agree, was Broadway Joe Namath and Susie Colbert? Was that not like one of the most famous blogs in sports was spawned out of that, KissingSusieColbert.com. Tell me you know that website, that blog. You must.
Yeah, it's iconic. And the pop culture references that went along with it. And, imagine if that interview took place today. The memes and the GIFs and everything else that would go along with it. I've already seen memes of it, but it's so gone past people's conscience of the younger generation. They would have a field day.
I don't even Lynch told me it would go this way. John Lynch. I was sitting by his bed probably within the last not 5 years, probably within the last 10 years. And I said, Lynch, do you ever lose track of years? And he goes, one day you'll lose track of decades. That happened to me. It's nothing to do with drinking, I don't think. But it was Saturday at that golf tournament that I was emceeing for the Bombers Riders alumni, and I was telling those Bomber jokes. Like, oh, my God, I got to update my jokes. They're about Cal Murphy and Dave Ritchie. I got to update these to O'Shea and Wade Miller. Same thing, like that kissing Susie Colbert incident. That was probably 20 years ago. It feels like it was 3 years ago, is what I'm saying.
Right. It was probably
I don't even know. Can somebody look it up? Was it that long? 30 years ago? I guess we'll know how long Joe Namath's been
maybe
sober.
In the 90s. But the 90s was over 30 years ago. Like the mid-90s.
That's what I'm saying. What happened in 30 years? What happened in the last 30 years? Dude, I'm just going to the big board, okay? When did Namath try to kiss? It was 2003, Darren. What the hell were you doing?
Uh-oh.
That's one.
I think I lost you for a second. 2003, it does not feel like it was that recent to be honest. Get Rod back connected and just bring him back in when we got him. I thought that was in the 90s. Now, 2003 would have been right at the beginning of me watching the National Football League. So it didn't register when it happened at the time. I mean, 2003, I was just getting into the NFL. So that's probably why it felt like it was like before I was born. But 2003, man, wow. Let me know if we got Rod back connected here soon. We will get him back in before we take a break coming up in just a few minutes. Okay, we almost got him back in. So I'm curious, the concept of time is just gone, right? We got him back in? I was saying,
Yeah. Sorry about that.
2003 was like right when I started watching the NFL. That didn't even register for me, which instantly makes me think it was before I was born. But 2003 is not that old. That's pretty recent.
You were a teen. A late teen, I might add.
Yep.
Or at least in the second half of your teens. And by the way, that spawned some interesting comments from our audience. From Cardinal Ryan in upstate New York. He writes that he says, the Namath Colbert incident was in 2003. I remember because I was at that game. That's from Cardinal Ryan.
How about that?
How about that? Watching in Saratoga, New York. Jeff, the Stamps fan, says maybe Susie should come on the show and tell us what she thinks. From what I understand, and I've followed this fairly closely because I'm a big Joe Namath fan, both as a player, obviously in recovery as well. She doesn't do interviews on it. I believe she will not speak about it, as I recall. And just, when are people going to realize, from the brawl in the stands at the Labor Day Classic to this, you have a big weekend, people are going to get boozed up, stuff's going to happen. Stuff's going to happen. What's the common denominator there? What's the common denominator? I'll ask you. What's the common denominator?
Booze.
Yeah, ding, ding, ding. Tell him what he's won, Bob. What is the common denominator? Getting liquored up? Yeah. What else do we have here? 902-518-3033. Bill is watching in Brantford, Ontario. He says the Aaron Andrews, Richard Sherman sideline interview was quite interesting. Richard definitely went on a rampage. That's another one. I mean, at least he's been forgiven. He's done some pretty erratic things while under the influence, Richard Sherman. But the last I checked, I think he's still on the Amazon Prime
Thursday night games
broadcast, right? Yeah, he's on the sidelines for that.
Oh,
Bomber
absolutely.
Boy. Bomber Boy writes in from Calgary, and he says, Solomon Elamimian talking trash to a player walking through the interview. Who are you again? I'll say it again. What's the common denominator? Farhan.
Alcohol. Yeah. Oh, Farhan.
No,
That's
Farhan.
the common denominator. I was going to say, I don't
Maybe
think
it's him.
Saul was liquored up on this during the game.
How about
He might have been. How do you know he wasn't?
That's the thing, man. When you've had a few drinks, you think it's all fun and games, and it doesn't really count. And by the morning, it's just like it never happened. But the internet is forever.
Yeah. I'm sure glad that I retired when I did from the alcohol game. I'm not going to say where, but I will say last weekend, somebody at one of our events was all liquored up, and I can guarantee you it wasn't the recovery event. I'll give you a hint. It wasn't at the sobriety event that the guy was drunk, and he was making all kinds of inappropriate comments. And I was like, how come he can do that? But I got in so much trouble when I did. But as my mentors have said, but you're in a position where more is expected of you. Okay. Well, my paycheck doesn't reflect that, but okay, still. So yeah, it's that whole how some people get away with things and others don't. Just to recap, Darren has picked the Montreal-Edmonton Grey Cup, a rematch of 2002.
How about
Are you okay with that going out via meme this afternoon, Darren? Are you okay with that going out via meme this afternoon? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, what's today? Wednesday? One thing about Labor Day, it's a hell of a lot of fun, but it really throws you out of whack for the rest of the week, is it not? Have you not felt like it's been Tuesday today all day, and yesterday was Monday, or is that just me?
No, I was thinking about that. I write a column for the website every Wednesday morning, and I write it, for over the course of a couple of days. And last night I'm like, whoa, I got to get this out because it airs tomorrow. I thought I had another day, to add some more things to it, and it does. It throws your week off a little bit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So my point is, as the week moves along, we're going to play NFL Deal or No Deal. I guess we got to do it tomorrow because week 1 kicks off. We'll do our CFL picks on Friday and all those things, but we do it as we move along throughout the show. Yeah, but I will just say this. I talk about Labor Day. For years, as voice of the riders, some are going to get mad about this, but I would go into the weekend. Everybody's all excited and, 3 days off. And I was like, I got to work through the whole bloody thing. Those long weekends for 6 months during the season really weren't a lot of fun. You know what? Now at least we can enjoy them. Like tonight. Now going to a Stanley Cup party tonight. But no expectation other than having a good time. Can't wait. Moose, I will see. Can't wait. Bart Scott. Can't wait. You remember that? There's another sideline interview right after a game.
Yep.
Okay. Moose, we will see you when we see you. Safe travels.
You bet. Thank you.
Our good friend Ryan Leslie joins us next from Sportsnet Flames. We are live on the Game Plus Television Network, WQEE 99.1 FM. Live streaming on YouTube as always, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Sounds like he knows what he's doing a little bit. As long as you're entertained. Aren't you entertained?
Hi, my name's Logan Stanko.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with The Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Oh, yeah, he's back. Time for more of the Rod Pedersen Show.
Broadcasting live from Johnny O's Gymnasium in Boca Raton, Florida, and brought to you in part by Landmark Cinemas. Every Monday is Seniors Day at Landmark Cinemas. Get 20% off the posted seniors rate plus 20% off of the concession. It's a deal that never gets old. Check your favorite Landmark Cinemas showtimes and pricing. Okay, please bring in Ryan Leslie from Sportsnet Flames and RL. Before we get to the heavy stuff, we've been talking about sideline interviews and so forth, and some of the most memorable of all time, and our viewers have brought up Joe Namath, Richard Sherman, Bart Scott. You do that for a living. Is there a key or a secret, Ryan, to not having your interview target go off on you in an interview?
I like when it goes sideways, Roddy. Pardon me. I love it. Like I've had guys like Biz Nasty and, Mike Commodore. And, I kind of hope for, I always hope for chaos. So give it to me. I love it.
Okay. Yeah, so you're inviting it. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Good.
Ryan, it's been a very, very difficult week for the hockey community, specifically Flames people. This will never go away. This hole will never go away. Can you talk about it from your perspective, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know if this one will go away. I don't know if the pain that the outside feels, it may soften, but it certainly won't ever go away for the extended Gaudreau family. It just won't. They're in a really bad place right now. And as everybody starts to make arrangements for a funeral that involved two young men and a lot of close friends and family, children, parents. I just, there's so many layers to this, Rod. I don't even know how anybody wraps their head around any of it. It still just doesn't feel real.
I bet, and I appreciate you coming on because there's a shock component to this, obviously a traumatic component to this. And when that, when they said there's no funeral arrangements announced, of course not. I get it. How could you? How could you think about that right now? But what I want to ask you is I did not know Johnny Hockey. You knew him well. Speaking of sideline interviews, you did a ton. Tell us about Johnny Hockey, please. What was he like?
Well, on to your question, I guess, just first and foremost about the sideline interviews and great conversations with him. And I was revisiting some old ones recently, just for a full season at the end of most of his walk-off interviews with me, either for intermission or at the end of the game. You could mix in some cliche answers, you could mix in some honest answers, but always at the very end, he would just hit me with this subtle brand of humor, deadpan it, and just say, "Yeah, great interview, Ryan," and then walk away. And it was fantastic, and I loved it. And he was also such a jovial guy, as I'm sure your viewers and listeners have heard. And I was thumbing through some old texts that he and I had exchanged as recently as this past hockey season, and he and Meredith would be at home on an off night watching Flames games, and they're like, "We're watching you," and he'd be ripping me apart and making fun of me or whatever. But then he'd always ask, "Can you say this word? Can you work the word popsicle into into the intermission. Of course, I'd say, all right, well, what's on the line? And he'd tell me that, all right, dinner or a bottle of wine or something when I come to town. And so I'd say, Rasmus Anderson scores. It's popsicles all around, and the Flames are up 1-0. Well, my phone would be blowing up. He'd be howling. He'd be like, "That's the best. I love it." And when he came to town, I said, "Don't worry about dinner." He goes, "Well," and he gave me these. He gave me these gloves. Signed them for my 50th. So that's pretty cool as a nice little keepsake. And I've got him out here. His spirit, his personality, his love of the game, and just his joy for life, and now into fatherhood and being a husband, a real legitimate family man that you could see the joy with these two beautiful children. And that was actually the last thing that we had talked about was his son, Johnny Jr., and just the set of lungs on him and having another baby around. So that was pretty special. I'll hang on to those. That was, a good man on and off the ice. So pretty lucky to have gotten to know him as well as I did, and the entire family. So they're hurting. We're thinking of them. And I just think the outpouring of support. I heard from Meredith a day or two ago, and it's going to take time.
Yeah, well said. And he sounds like just about every hockey player I know, smart, sarcastic, but with a really big heart. When you talk about those gifts and the little messages that he has sent you, it's pretty obvious what the mood is in Calgary, but what's the scene around the Saddle Dome, right? There's going to be a candlelight vigil tonight. What can you just tell everybody else that's not there what it's like?
Yeah, it's pretty somber. Johnny was one of their guys, regardless of where he was playing. Johnny started here and flourished here and made deep-rooted connections here at the rink and in the community. And the scene is somber. The mood is somber. You go down to the Saddle Dome, it's somber outside. Yesterday I sat down with Craig Conroy, the Flames general manager, and had a conversation with him, and he's somber. The vigil will go tonight. I'll be there, which will be great. I'm going to try and bring my children. It'll be great to pay tribute to John, and so many people will be there. I think it's one where people, regardless of who they are or how well they knew him or whether or not they're a hockey fan, in this case, Roddy, it doesn't matter. Everybody, to a degree, felt the connection with John, and from children to senior citizens to hockey fans to men and women alike, there was a fondness for John that will remain.
Well, it's funny because I spent 2 summers there in Calgary, as you know, and everybody had a Johnny hockey story. One of those summers is when he signed in Columbus, and there was the talk, of course, about booing him when he came back, and people are like, we can't do that. They love him too much, and that's very evident, right? Yeah, they love him. He's that guy, so I appreciate you coming on to talk about that. And I guess overall, how are you doing? Hasn't even been a week, man.
Oh. Yeah, you're right. It's been a week that will not soon be forgotten. So, there's a hockey season coming up. There's all sorts of training camps. But all of that right now is on temporary hold in terms of right now everybody's focus is to, if they knew John or had an association with him, to get to that funeral. And then, various things are going to unfold after, but it sort of feels as though everybody is making their efforts to get where they need to be, pay their respects and their love and support to those families. And I can't imagine what this season will be like for individuals, for teams. A lot of his hockey brethren are wrecked right now. So, what does opening night look like? Everybody's got questions. And the one thing right now that I think everybody needs to do is just take a step back, and just, this process has to play itself out. And it has to play itself out with the family being first and foremost, in terms of their wishes, in terms of what they have the strength for, in terms of, because everybody wants answers. What are they going to do about the number? Is it going to be retired? What's opening? Everybody wants everything right now. But I'm telling you, the way this family is right now, it needs some time. So everything will start to take shape the way it should, but we just can't expect it today.
Absolutely. Very well said, man. And I know it's tough to talk about, but it does need to be talked about. So thank you for this. I'll be thinking of you tonight, and I'm here if you need me, buddy, as always. Thanks for this today. Be strong.
You're a good man. Thanks for having me. No, it's great to chat about him. I love it. And it can be hard and it can be beautiful all at once, to remember. It doesn't matter, friend, family, connection, what it is. I mean, when you have a fondness for somebody, I believe anyhow, and I know everybody's different and entitled to have a different approach, but I like talking about those that meant something to you. And as I've said in the past about other people, you wear them like a badge of honor. And I think a lot of people will for Johnny and Matty Gaudreau, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ryan.
Good to see you.
Sportsnet Flames host Ryan Leslie. We'll take a timeout and be right back after this here on the Game Plus Television Network. Key Radio, live streaming on YouTube as always, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at IKSGameDay.com.
Welcome to the Create Space at IKS Media. Meetings, podcasts, studio. Whether you're here to collaborate or educate, our versatile meeting places, workspaces, and studios await. Your next big idea starts here. Make our space your space. The Create Space at IKS.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
You got something to say? You want to add to the show? What are you waiting for? Don't just sit there. Say something. Now, back to the studio with Rod.
Overtime's brought to you by Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary. Hockey players, are you looking for the perfect place to perfect your shot? Look no further than Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary with state-of-the-art shooting lanes and top-notch equipment. It's the ultimate training destination for players of all ages and skill levels. Whether you're prepping for the big game or just want to have some fun, Overtime Hockey Lanes has got you covered. 28th Street Northeast, Calgary. A sports update. The Toronto Blue Jays look to bounce back from a 10-9 loss as they close out a two-game series with the Philadelphia Phillies at Rogers Center today. Kyle Schwarber smacked 3 home runs on Tuesday night as the Phillies overcame a 5-run deficit. The Baltimore Orioles entered play this evening with a half-game lead on second-place New York in that AL East. It's easily the tightest divisional race in the big leagues. The Orioles will host the slumping White Sox, while the Yankees will visit Texas. Focus on a Super Bowl three-peat has begun. The NFL regular season kicks off on Thursday with a rematch of last season's AFC Championship game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs won 11-6 last year, won the AFC West. Then they beat the 49ers 25-22 in the Super Bowl for their second straight title. As we move along through the week, more and more and more football talk hitting a crescendo. The sports update brought to you by EMJ Marketing. Connect with thought leaders and industry experts through EMJ Marketing Speakers Bureau. Contact them at emj.com. Have us out and speak at your event. Apparently, we're thought leaders. Allegedly, October 19th, myself, along with Lauren Mulliken, former head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks, Rough Riders Hall of Famer Bob Poley, and golfer Gil Dash will be speaking in Wolseley, Sask, part of the fundraising effort there for the Wolseley Sportsplex. So join us for that. Jim Barker under that Speakers Bureau, Stu Grimson, there's quite a few. Gary writes in, Gary with 2 R's in Penticton, BC. This reminds me of somebody that's never going to listen, even though you hope one day they will. Gary writes in and says, hi, Rod, you're back on my network. It's been a while. Glad to be back. Well, here's the thing, Gary, we never went anywhere. And I said, if you really want to watch the show, you can watch us on YouTube every day. But no, we're back on Shaw, Rogers, Channel 230, all across Western Canada. Here we are. Glad to have you back, Gary. But, yeah, we didn't go anywhere. 902-518-3033, the number to text us here at Johnny O's Gymnasium here in the Florida studio. Kirk in Toronto writes in. He's watching on Game Plus. I've been liquored up at many Argo playoff games that help soothe the pain after a tough loss. Hey, I want to make very clear here. I'm not telling anybody not to drink. My whole thing as a licensed grief coach, trauma, stress management, addiction recovery, and mental health. When you want to quit and you can't, even though you've tried, come see me. If you want to drink, go drink. Just don't drive. Paul in Humboldt writes in and says, tears and prayers from Humboldt. Yeah, this is a big tragedy. No doubt comes to mind, 2018. There have been others, and it sucks to, we're not comparing them. They all suck. I will say this, with all of my training, I see this every day. If you're waiting to get over it, you won't. So you're best to find ways to live with it. I'll offer that. Bomber Boy in Calgary says Johnny Hockey should be the cover boy of NHL 25. Tony from Cochrane says the Flames should raise some sort of banner in the Saddle Dome for Johnny G. I'm a little with Ryan in that no decisions will be made now. It's very important not to make any rash decisions in the aftermath of a tragedy like that. The one topic that really got people going today was the sideline interviews. And I don't know why it took so long, why we didn't get to it on Tuesday. But today, what are the most memorable sideline interviews in sports history? We had some good ones. I still say Joe Namath, Susie Colbert, Monday Night Football, 2003 in New York, #1 all time. I want to kiss you. And Joe never drank after that. I can tell you that as a guy in the recovery industry. Too bad for your rock bottom to be on that vision, but again, we don't compare. Richard Sherman, Aaron Andrews, Bart Scott. Can't wait. I don't even remember who was interviewing him. For the CFL fans, Solomon Elamimian. That's a good one. That wouldn't be hard to find, I don't think, on social media, that clip. Farhan interviewing him. And this all came about, of course, because of the Nathan Rourke interview with the same guy, Farhan, Saturday in Touchdown Pacific, big timing him. Had that chat Saturday morning on Edmonton radio with Carius and Eddie Steele about should Nathan Rourke apologize, and if so, to whom and when? And I said, I'm pretty sure he would have apologized by Tuesday morning to Farhan. Sheesh, I hope so. Wilf in Steinbach, Manitoba writes in and he says, hey, Rod and Moose, great show. How about the Swiss hockey coach? We have no chance. I don't have any idea what that is about. I'm sorry. I missed it right over my head. So it's going to be a fun afternoon. Got the Cats and Bolts podcast. We'll be talking Panthers and Lightning, teeing up the season. My latest columns published to the South Florida Tribune today on the NHL. Go look it up if you would like, southfloridatribune.com. And then a Stanley Cup party tonight. Been very fortunate to have been invited to, so watch for photos of that. We'll talk about it all tomorrow, right back here, noon Eastern, same place, same stations.
Who has more fun than us?